Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode at MSA. Seems like with this administration, we never are going to run out of things to talk about. Tonight's topic, today, wherever you're at, whatever time it is, whatever's going on, doesn't matter. Whether you heard about it or not, we're going to cover part of the topic of this whole thing that's going down in Colorado, where the Colorado Supreme Court decided that Donald Trump doesn't need to be part of their ballot. Now, what's really interesting about that, just to start before we get into everything else, is the fact that you had 7 people take a vote, 4 voted to remove him from the ballot, and 3 voted to keep him on the ballot. Now, you have to remember, these are all Democrats, so 3 of them understood law. I'm sure the other 4 will clue in soon, but one can never tell. Either way, like, share, and subscribe. We're a young channel. We're trying to grow, and more and more, it's getting very apparent that these messages need to get out because mainstream media, as you always hear us say, are not covering a lot of this, as well as it seems like a lot of the channels that are like MSA, Make Sense America, are getting suppressed as well. And that's a whole nother topic we'll get into on another day. But getting into the meat and bones of all of this. So, as usual, typical MSA style, we got a clip that we're going to roll. And we really want you to pay attention to what these folks are talking about. This is, we got to let you watch it. And, of course, it has to do with how they felt about what the judges did in Colorado. And so we're going to roll this clip and let you see firsthand another side of what other people are thinking. So we'll be right back. Hang in there.
Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
We turn now to Colorado, where the state Supreme Court has ruled in a 4-3 decision to bar Donald Trump from the state's 2024 presidential primary ballot because of his actions during the January 6th insurrection. In an unprecedented decision, the justices ruled that the former president is ineligible to appear on the ballot, citing the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment, which was written to prevent Civil War Confederates from returning to government. Section 3 of the amendment states, quote, "No person shall hold any office, civil or military, under the United States, who, having previously taken an oath as an officer of the United States to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection," end quote. Trump has vowed to appeal the decision to the U.S. Supreme Court, where conservatives hold a 6-3 majority. Meanwhile, a number of other states are also considering barring Trump from the ballot.
We're joined now by the constitutional attorney, John Boniface, president of Free Speech for People, which has filed legal challenges to Trump's eligibility to appear on the ballot in a number of states, including Minnesota, Michigan, and Oregon. First, John, if you can talk about what happened in Colorado and respond to those who simply say, why let the courts decide? Why not let the voters decide? Why remove him from the ballot?
Well, thank you, Amy, for having me. This was a fantastic victory for our democracy and our Constitution. The Colorado Supreme Court got it right. Donald Trump is disqualified under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment for inciting, mobilizing, facilitating the insurrection on January 6th. Now, to your question about why not let the voters decide, the fact is that our Constitution makes clear that you have to meet certain qualifications to run for president of the United States.
Okay, stop. I can't do it. I can't take it. It has nothing to do with the fact that this guy's narrative is 150% fueled by the left. Okay, what I have a problem with is the channel itself called Democracy Now. Okay, and when you listen to how they started out, it sounded like, okay, we're going to hear more of a center type of point of view. And then when they introduce their guest, who is a quote-unquote constitutional lawyer, which he means he studied constitutional law, but he's also the president of this freedom of speech club, movement, whatever it is. And yet the first thing out of his mouth is this is a glorious victory when it came to what is going on with the former president, Donald Trump. If you were for freedom of speech, you would not be talking, number one, about the fact that what President Trump actually said on January 6th was against the constitutional rights that he has as an American citizen. Number two, if you'd studied constitutional law, you would also understand the fact that this insurrection it was from the Civil War against Confederates. Now, when you listen to the word Confederates, don't get confused because they changed the title later to Democrat. So let's just get with the now and we'll just start calling them Democrat. Now, this whole thing that goes on with this insurrection law, what's really important here is you'd have to understand that in 1860, when what we know as President Lincoln was getting ready to get voted into office, there was a lot of states that were against him. There was territories that were against him. There was, the Republican Party at that time was only 6 years old. And the whole reason that the Republican Party was formed was to free slaves, to stop slavery in its entirety. If you don't know that, facts check that because you'll find out that's exactly why the Republican Party was formed. It was formed from another party that was called the Free Soil Party. We won't get into all that. Just do some facts checking on your own. You'll understand what the Republicans were up to at the time and why in 10 other states that Lincoln's name wasn't on a ballot. And that's because those 10 states refused to allow him on the ballot because those were slave states and they wanted to keep it that way. The Confederacy. So now that we're getting into a little bit of history lessons on that, we look at today and we see that there's all this back and forth going on, and it's going to go up to the Supreme Court on a federal level, and the federal Supreme Court is going to have to take action and make the final decision on whether or not Donald Trump can be removed, because you hear people saying, well, we should put him on the ballot anyway and let the people vote it out, which is 100% what we should do, okay? Chris Christie even feels this way, and we all know how Chris Christie feels about Donald Trump, okay? He also feels that what Colorado has done is basically against constitutional rights that anyone has as American. As a matter of fact, when you get back into insurrection real quick, you'll notice that if you actually read what the laws say for insurrection, it covers all offices except the president. And the reason being is because the presidential office has its own parts in the Constitution about what you can and cannot do in order to become a candidate for presidency. Okay, now, but we've gotten all of that. We've got a second clip that's going to get a little bit more into the real part of what you need to understand about this whole thing of the insurrection. It's from Fox News. They have their guest speaker, and he has a book called Get Trump. So that'll just tell you right there that, he's not someone that's just jumping on the bandwagon with everything that's going on, trying to be just pro-Trump, pro-Trump, pro-Trump. Listen to what he has to say, because it means a lot to what's going on right now. And then after we get done with that, we're going to come back for a little bit more commentary so we can close this one out. And hopefully you'll share it with everyone that you know, because these are the types of things that need to get out. We're hearing more and more that we talk to people, they don't hear a lot of this stuff. They don't understand a lot of what's going on. They hear the other side of it and how Trump's the big bad guy and all that. And it doesn't matter if Trump's the big bad guy or not. They're also not covering the fact of what Joe Biden has done and all these other things. But we're going to get back into that in just a minute. So let's go ahead and just roll this other clip, and then we'll talk about it. See you in a minute.
Joining me right now is Harvard Law Professor Emeritus and the author of Get Trump, as well as The War Against Jews. Alan Dershowitz is with us once again. Alan, good to see you. Thanks for weighing in here. Your reaction to this Colorado ruling?
It's clearly unconstitutional. The Constitution provides specifically for disqualification for people who fought in the Civil War. Now, Trump's old, but not old enough to have fought in the Civil War. It also leaves it to Congress to decide what this means, because it's very open-ended. If the Colorado court were to be correct, it would just basically amend the constitutional rules on impeachment. After all, insurrection is an impeachable offense. And if they were to impeach him under that provision, you'd need a vote of the House, 2/3 of the Senate. But the way the Colorado court, consisting of all Democrats, absurdly interpreted this provision, all you have to do is get anybody saying, well, I think what he did was an insurrection. What Black Lives Matters did was an insurrection. What Eugene V. Debs, who ran for president 100 years ago, did was an insurrection. There's no process. There's no procedure for how you decide it. Do you need a conviction? Do you need a vote of some kind by some legislative body? You can't just have a provision that's self-enforcing. And the provision itself says the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation this article, but they haven't done it. So there is nothing to this argument. It's just a political ploy. It is the most undemocratic decision imaginable, taking away the right to vote. Forget about Trump's right to run. It's your right to vote, because if this can be done in Colorado, it can be done in New York, it can be done in Florida, it can be done in purple states, and it will mean the election is determined by 7 judges or a dozen judges in different states rather than by the people of the United States. It's the most undemocratic, unconstitutional decision I've seen in a long time, and I think it's very clear the Supreme Court should reverse this quickly and put an end to this nonsense.
I mean, I know that very few people were expecting Trump to win Colorado, but doesn't this create a precedent for other states to come up with the same? I spoke with former Trump White House Associate Counsel May Mailman in the last hour. She says the only thing protecting Americans and democracy right now is the Supreme Court. Watch this.
This is about our democracy. When the Democrats say our democracy is at stake, it is, because they're trying to destroy it. What really this is about is the left has engaged in an unmitigated campaign against the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court right now is the only thing protecting Americans and our democracy before it crumbles.
All right, you got to see the second clip. Now, a couple spots in there that I really enjoyed was the fact that he talked about the provision itself. Okay, the provision is not self-enforcing, meaning like some of our other laws are spelled out. You do this, this is bad. This is actually something that has to go before Congress. Congress has to start looking into this and see how they feel about it first. Second, how it separates our democracy. It really does, if you think about it. Because you have people in a state that have decided that this is how it's going to go for the country. Can't do that. Cannot do that. That's wrong. Okay? It's wrong on every level. Doesn't matter if you get emotional or not emotional about how you feel about Donald Trump. The fact that to take somebody off the ballot because you don't want them on a ballot, you think they did something wrong. Can't do that. Now, if you notice at the end of that clip, the young lady that was speaking, her words were extremely clear that our Supreme Court is what's going to hold this country together right now. Because everybody's asking, if this has been like this for the last 3 years, with all this craziness that goes on and the administration doing what they want and thumbing their nose to whether they have to appear for subpoenas and things of that nature. When you look at all of that, then you look at the Supreme Court's ability to overrule some of the decisions that are going on, like what we see in Colorado. But it also makes you wonder why the Supreme Court was under fire, why they were bringing things forward on Judge Thomas and how he's got to go and all these other things. Do you see how it connects? Do you see how it's tying together? There's a lot of things that are going on right now that, unfortunately, when you start going down a rabbit hole and you start reading and doing research on all this, you really start to see things that you wish you could kind of unsee and hope that they weren't true. But then you see the actions of not just the administration, but parts of this administration, the Department of Justice, our FBI, Homeland Security, all these little things that start to fall into play. I used to think when I heard people talking about how the deep state wants us all to eat a certain way and be a certain way and not have to live with money, that it would all be digital currency and we'd all have control. We'd all be very much controlled. And there's other things that we have another segment that's going to be coming up that are going to talk really more in depth about a lot of that. But when you look at how it all is starting to tie together, this isn't a Republican and a Democrat thing, okay? Because that doesn't make sense, America, to say, oh, it's the Democrats versus the Republicans. No. It's an agenda that's put together by a bunch of people that are on both sides of the fence, and they want things to go a certain way that's not in your control. Don't ever get that wrong, because that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And I'm not a conspiracy theory kind of person. I don't live my life that way. But with some of the things that I'm starting to see and hear make it very clear that what's been going on has been going on for a long time. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse because people are trying to get their claws in while they can, buy up as much land as they can, get involved. Look at how Rockefeller was broken up back in the day because he owned too much. He was too much in control. And now we have these gigantic monstrosity of corporations. Look at BlackRock. Huge. Huge. They want to buy up all the real estate and have everybody rent from them. We're going to get into that another day. There's a few companies that are like that in other ways. So do us a favor. Like, share, and subscribe. Most share. Please share, share, share. Send this to people you know, you don't know. Send it to people you like, you don't like. Send it to your butcher, your doctor, anybody. Get the word out there so people can start looking at things and start using their brain to think about it. Maybe do a little research on their own and help come up with some of the answers, or be aware of things so when the questions come up, they feel a little bit more prepared instead of getting caught in a narrative and being taken offline to where you're not looking at what's going on over here because you're so focused on all of this. Sound familiar? We've been living that a little bit, haven't we? Okay, so we're going to get done with this one, and whether it be day, night, whatever it is, wherever you're at, we hope you're having a great, wonderful moment in time right now. We do love and look forward to seeing all of you again. So please tune back in. We're going to have a lot more videos coming your way, and we look forward to seeing you. Have a great day, night, whatever it is, wherever you're at.